Hey everyone, I'm the Casting Demon. Nice for y'all to join me here with this video. So, something I'd like to say is it turns out that I'm becoming a bit of a VTuber now. So yeah, it's quite fun. And what I was wanting to say here is I was wanting to tell y'all a bit about my luck, some of the stories I've got for it. So yeah, let's start. So whenever I was 3, which is when this starts out, I ended up having a ceiling fan follow me. And the reason for that was because I had climbed up to the back of the couch and I ended up jumping to the ceiling fan, which ended up bringing it crashing down on top of me. Surprisingly, though, there wasn't a scratch on me. Completely fine. Except for my dad being mad, of course. But hey, what are you gonna do? When I was 10, I ended up breaking my head open in the shower. I was reaching up to grab my towel because I didn't know any better, and there was a part in the shower where it was like one of those sitting parts. So I stood on top of that and I slipped and fell. And I broke the back of my head open. Had to have 2 staples in the back of my head, and surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of blood. But otherwise, I was completely fine. When I was 11, I had appendicitis twice. Surprisingly, the first time it was just a scare, and the second time they'd never had to remove it. And I no longer have an appendix because my appendix ended up dissolving that second time. Which, yay! At the same time, kind of interesting because that's kind of a really rare occurrence with appendicitis. Yeah. And another thing, when I was 12, me and my brother were headed over to a friend's house. And as I was walking, I wasn't paying attention to where I was going, and I almost stepped on a baby rattlesnake. Had my brother not warned me, I would have stepped on the snake, but because he did, I ended up being able to kind of hop over it mid step. You know, that weird hop step type thing that you do? That's what I ended up doing. So, kind of saved my kind of saved me there. When I was 19, I got into a car crash. I was headed down the highway. I was going to college after Thanksgiving break, and I ended up hitting a patch of black ice. Crazy thing is, to the left there was a river that I would have hit had I gone too far to the left, but thankfully I didn't. And if I would have gone to the right too far, I would have ended up getting hit by traffic that was going the same direction I was. So yeah, but because I somehow hit just the sweet spot, I ended up hitting a guardrail, and it was going over 30 miles an hour, and yet somehow there wasn't a scratch on me. It was pretty interesting, to be quite honest. Alright, and so I was, this past school year, just a few days after I turned 20, I ended up almost getting shot in the head. And the story for that is I was hanging out with my friends one night. It was National Pasta Day, so I was at my friend's house making fettuccine for everyone. And as I was making fettuccine, I realized I was about to burn the chicken. So I moved over to the right in order to try and keep the chicken from burning. And as that happened, right whenever I moved, there was a gunshot. And the gunshot came from one of my friend's roommates who didn't know how to handle a gun. But because I moved, I ended up getting really lucky, and the bullet missed me by an inch. Had I not moved when I did, I would have been shot in the head, and I wouldn't be here this day. So yeah, I've got a lot of luck, if you can't tell. So, another thing was during one of my classes this past school year, I ended up slipping on some paper, which I'm kind of surprised there was paper on the ground at the time for the class, but surprisingly, it ended up helping me because whenever that did happen, someone was hammering some wood in, or was hammering a nail into some wood, and the hammer ended up slipping out of their hand. And whenever it slipped out of their hand, it came straight for me. But because I slipped on the paper, the hammer ended up missing my head. And I honestly don't know how that happened. Just kind of a freak accident, but no accident occurred really. So after school was over, my friend was having this little survivor game that he was hosting over in Colorado. And on my way back, I had gotten into a hailstorm, and the hail was coming down in buckets, and it was the size of golf balls. And as it was coming down, it started looking as if you couldn't see the roads. Everything was just white, really. And with everything being the way it was, I was close to freaking out. But somehow, nothing bad happened to me or the car. No damage to the windows, no damage to the car. And I was somehow okay with that. I really don't know how nothing happened with me or the car, especially with the size of hail it was. And last but not least, this past 4th of July, whenever I was hanging out with my dad and brother, and we were shooting off fireworks, I ended up bending down to grab a firework out of the box, and as I did, there was a firework shell that ended up missing my head because I bent down. Had I not bent down when I did, the firework shell would have hit me in the head and I could have gotten really hurt. Yet somehow nothing bad happened to me at all. And so, yeah. I'm not really sure how that happened, but it did. And somehow I'm still alive to this day with all this crazy stuff that happens to me. So, yeah. Anyways, with me, I guess you can say I've got a bit of an unlucky luck, if you would. But I consider my luck to be the stuff of legends, really. And so, because of that, yeah. All my friends are completely surprised that I'm still alive to this day, as well as anyone I tell this story to. So, yeah. So thank y'all for listening to this story that I had for today. And with that, I will see y'all in the next video. And with that, I shall bid you adieu and stay tuned. Bye!